Welcome to Feminine Vibes, where every change tells a story. Please, don't make me wear this, I begged, my voice trembling so much I could barely hear myself over the pounding of my own heart. I could see her eyes flicker, not with anger, but with that strange, quiet amusement that made my stomach twist into knots. She held up the dress, delicate and soft, almost like it belonged to someone else entirely, someone I didn't recognize, someone, me, maybe. I swallowed, tasting fear and shame together, hoping somehow my words could bend reality. It was supposed to be a normal Saturday. I thought we'd binge movies, order takeout, laugh like we always did. But then came the challenge, or rather, her insistence that I try something new. I didn't understand it at first. She said it was fun, playful. But when I saw the silk sheen, the lace edging, and the way it whispered against her fingers, something inside me froze. I felt trapped, small, like a secret I didn't even know I had was being pulled into the light. I tried to step back, to explain, to insist, but she was gentle, patient, and terrifying all at once. "It's just for today," she said, voice soft, coaxing, but her eyes held that quiet certainty that meant there was no argument possible. I felt my chest tighten, the air around me thick and heavy, and a sinking thought landed somewhere deep. Maybe I wasn't going to walk away from this the same person I was before. My hands trembled as I touched the fabric she pressed into mine. Silk, so smooth, so impossibly foreign. I could feel every thread against my skin, my nerves alive with panic and curiosity all at once. My mind screamed, I can't do this, but a tiny, trembling part of me wondered what it would feel like to become the person reflected in that dress. That thought terrified me more than anything else. I glanced up at her, searching for a hint that this was all a joke. Her smile was soft, almost sad, and I realized she understood more than I did about the storm inside me. And in that moment, I knew this was the start of something I couldn't rewind. I wanted to run, to hide, to pretend this wasn't happening, but my body stayed frozen, a mix of fear and fascination rooting me to the spot. The dress was held out, and the room seemed smaller, the walls closer, my heartbeat loud in my ears. Every fiber of me screamed no, but the soft, insistent voice in the back of my head whispered, "What if you tried?" I shook, caught between two worlds, the one I'd always known, and the one I was being pulled into, one delicate layer of silk at a time. As I stared at that dress, I realized something. Whatever happened next, nothing would feel the same again. The air was heavy, expectant, almost trembling with the weight of what was about to unfold. And in the quiet, almost a whisper, I thought maybe I'm about to meet someone I've never known inside myself. I backed away instinctively, my hands curling into fists at my sides. I can't, I whispered, though my voice felt thin and fragile, almost like it didn't belong to me. My stomach churned, a storm of panic and humiliation twisting through every nerve. How had a simple piece of clothing become something so terrifying, so intimate, so defining? She tilted her head slightly, as if seeing me for the first time. "I know it's hard," she said softly. "But I'm not asking, you're choosing, even if it doesn't feel like it." Her words were gentle, but each syllable pressed down on me, heavier than the silk I had refused to touch. I wanted to scream, to run, to dissolve into the shadows of my room where no one could see me, but my legs felt like they had melted into the floor. I thought about every moment leading up to this, the teasing, the casual dares, the quiet nudges that now made sense in a way I hadn't realized. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye, a familiar face contorting with confusion and fear. "Who are you?" I wanted to shout at it, demand answers, but all I saw was uncertainty mirrored back, eyes wide, cheeks flushed, and lips pressed into a thin, tight line. "I don't know if I can." "I'm not," my words faltered, my mind spinning. I was terrified of being laughed at, of losing myself, of the possibility that once I stepped into this, I couldn't step back. Every fiber of my being screamed no, but beneath that roar, a tiny, trembling whisper, curiosity. A question I wasn't ready to admit. What if I could? Her patience was infuriating. She didn't push, didn't force, just waited with a quiet presence that felt both comforting and suffocating. I could smell the faint scent of her perfume mixed with the linen of the dress, a sensory detail that made my head spin. My heart thudded painfully, each beat echoing in my ears like a warning drum. Minutes stretched into something elastic, my thoughts circling like birds trapped in a cage. I tried to distract myself, to focus on anything, my phone, the window, the floor, but nothing worked. The dress remained in my peripheral vision, calling to something in me I didn't understand. And with each glance, I realized that this was more than just clothing. It was a mirror, reflecting not only what I looked like, but something I might feel, something I had buried deep inside, afraid to name. I swallowed hard, trembling, and realized that no matter what I decided, nothing would be the same. The choice wasn't simply about fabric. It was about me, and something inside me that had been waiting to be seen. I finally reached out, my fingers trembling as they hovered over the silky fabric. The moment my skin brushed against it, a shiver ran through me, sharp and electric. It was so soft, so delicate, and somehow, impossibly intimate. I pulled back instinctively, my pulse hammering in my temples. What is happening to me? I thought, panic and fascination warring in equal measure. She didn't rush me. She just smiled, that quiet, knowing smile that made my stomach twist in ways I didn't like and didn't fully understand. Just feel it, she whispered, almost like a command disguised as permission. I hesitated, then let my hand glide over the lace hem. It was cold at first, then warmth seemed to seep into it, through it, until I could feel it against my fingertips and almost inside my chest. The mirror across the room reflected me, half hidden in shadows, but already I could see a flicker of someone else staring back. Not entirely me, not entirely anyone I had ever known. My reflection seemed softer somehow, vulnerable, open in a way I wasn't prepared for. I turned away, pressing my palms to my face, trying to make sense of the strange cocktail of fear and longing coiling in my chest. Her voice broke the silence. You don't have to decide all at once. Just start. She held the dress toward me again. This time, I didn't flinch. My hands brushed the fabric fully, running along the curve of the skirt. I could feel the weight of it, the way it responded to my touch, the way it seemed to hug the shape of my body before I even wore it. My breath hitched. The smell, soft perfume mingled with cotton and silk, hit me next. I had never noticed how intimately scent could anchor a memory, a feeling, a possibility. And suddenly, I felt exposed, raw, like the dress wasn't just fabric but a key, unlocking something I had locked away for years. I looked into her eyes, searching for reassurance, for the permission I secretly wanted. She nodded, encouraging, patient. I took a shaky breath and finally stepped closer. The dress slipped from her hands into mine, and I felt the silk slide across my palms, over my fingers, along my wrists. Each motion sent a tremor through me, a mix of fear, embarrassment, and an unspoken curiosity. And in that quiet, electric moment, I realized, the transformation had begun. Not just the dress, not just the fabric, but something deeper, something inside me that had been waiting, hesitant, afraid, yet undeniably awake. My hands shook as I lifted the dress, hesitant, like it was a fragile piece of glass rather than fabric. I slid my arms into the sleeves, and the moment the silky material wrapped around my shoulders, a strange sensation blossomed in my chest. It was tight, but not uncomfortable, more like it was molding me, reshaping not just my body but something deeper, something I couldn't name. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. At first, it was just me, or at least, what I thought was me. But then the outline of my shoulders, the subtle curve of my waist under the fabric, the way the dress clung and fluttered, it all made my reflection look different. Softer. More fragile. And my heart pounded, part terror, part fascination. Is this really me? Her voice came, gentle, guiding. Adjust it slowly. Feel it. Don't fight it. I obeyed, trembling, sliding the fabric down my torso, smoothing it over my hips. The lace scratched lightly against my skin, and I winced, though the sensation was oddly intimate, grounding. My reflection shifted as I moved, and every tiny adjustment felt monumental, like I was sculpting someone I had never met but had always been inside. Then came the moment that stole my breath, the neckline. My fingers grazed the edge, and a wave of heat rushed through me. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. My reflection stared back, eyes wide, lips parted slightly, cheeks flushing. The voice that answered when I whispered my own name felt strange, higher, softer. I coughed nervously, trying to make it sound normal, but it didn't. Even my own voice was transforming with the dress, a subtle tremor revealing a new timbre I didn't recognize. That I felt exposed, vulnerable, utterly raw, yet a quiet thrill hummed under the fear. This wasn't just clothing, it was a mirror, reflecting a self I hadn't met before. I wanted to run, hide, erase this moment, but something inside whispered, almost tenderly, stay. See who you are. Her presence was steady, patient, not pushing, just watching me navigate this fragile, delicate threshold. I adjusted the dress one last time and faced the mirror fully. My reflection wasn't just me, it was someone new, someone frightening, beautiful, and alive. My pulse thundered in my ears as I realized the dress had done more than cover my body. It had started to reveal me. I stood frozen in front of the mirror, my fingers still clutching the fabric at my waist, heart hammering so loudly I thought it might echo off the walls. The reflection staring back wasn't entirely me, or maybe it was, just rearranged. Softer lines, smaller shoulders, a curve I had never noticed before. And yet, as I studied it, a small, unbidden thrill snuck into my chest, mingling with the fear, making it twist painfully in my gut. I wanted to laugh at myself, to shake off the panic, but I couldn't. My voice, higher than I was used to, betrayed me when I whispered, "Who am I?" The words sounded foreign, but there was a note of curiosity buried beneath the tremor. Part of me wanted to run, to rip off the dress, and hide in the safety of the room I had known all my life. But another part, quieter, insistent, wanted to stay, to see what it felt like to be this version of me, even if just for a moment. Her eyes were on me, patient, understanding. She didn't say anything, didn't push. She just waited, letting me navigate the whirlpool of emotions inside myself. Panic surged, then ebbed slightly, replaced by a strange sense of possibility. Could this really be me? Could I feel comfortable like this? The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. I traced the seam of the dress along my hip, feeling the delicate lace under my fingertips. My reflection moved with me, responding, shaping, whispering possibilities I had never dared imagine. And in the quiet, almost sacred space of that room, I realized something. The dress wasn't changing me. It was revealing me layers I had hidden, shapes I had denied, a self I hadn't met but had always been there, waiting quietly behind fear. A shaky smile brushed my lips. I caught myself staring a little longer, noticing the way my eyes softened, the slight tilt of my head. A strange warmth spread through me, a fragile, hesitant spark of confidence. But then the fear returned, sharp and cold, reminding me how exposed I truly was. My pulse raced, my breath quickened, and I realized this was only the beginning. The mirror showed more than a dress. It showed a choice, to embrace or retreat. I swallowed hard, gripping the silk fabric, and whispered again, barely audible, maybe I can do this. She handed me the wig, and my stomach twisted again. Long, soft strands of hair that weren't mine, falling like silk over my fingers. I hesitated, tracing the roots, feeling the unfamiliar weight. My reflection seemed to quiver in the mirror, as if it sensed the next layer of change about to unfold. "Just put it on," she said gently, and I obeyed, hands shaking as I pulled it over my head. The strands fell perfectly around my shoulders, brushing against the dress. The sensation was foreign, but not unpleasant, like wearing a mask that felt more like a revelation than a disguise. I caught a glimpse of myself and froze. My eyes looked different framed by the soft strands, my face softer, more exposed. Next came the makeup. She guided my hands first, teaching me lightly, but then took over when I fumbled. Each brushstroke was like a whisper against my skin, blush warming my cheeks, mascara darkening my lashes, lips tinted just enough to feel real, but still me. My pulse raced. I felt like a stranger, yet the stranger was undeniably part of me. When she stepped back, I faced the mirror fully. My reflection was breathtaking in a way that made my chest tighten. The wig framed my face perfectly, the dress hugging my shape, the makeup softening my features. It wasn't a costume. It wasn't a joke. It was me, or at least a version of me I hadn't met before, and somehow, my heart recognized her instantly. I blinked, feeling a mix of fear and awe, noticing the small details, the tilt of my head, the curve of my lips, the way the dress moved with my body. It was surreal, like seeing someone I had always known, someone fragile and strong all at once. I wanted to laugh, cry, scream. Any emotion would have felt right. She stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. "You look beautiful," she said softly, and for a moment, the words struck me like lightning. Beauty. Me. That word had never applied to my reflection, yet here it was, whispered into existence. My breath caught. I wanted to deny it, run, escape, but I couldn't. There was a truth in that reflection, a fragile, undeniable truth that trembled in the silence between us. I touched my face, traced the edges of the wig, adjusted the dress, and whispered to myself, Is this really me? The answer shimmered in the mirror, shy, daring, and terrifyingly real. I stepped back from the mirror, heart pounding so fiercely it felt like it might tear through my chest. My reflection stared back, soft, unfamiliar, yet undeniably me. Every inch of the dress, every strand of wig, every careful stroke of makeup had built a version of myself I didn't recognize, and yet couldn't look away from. Panic surged, sharp and jagged. I pressed my palms to my face, trying to hide, to shield myself from that stranger who looked so impossibly like me. I can't be this person. I can't. But even as I thought it, part of me wanted desperately to stay, to feel what it was like to be seen, even by myself. Her presence was calm, steady, grounding. "It's okay," she whispered, almost like a promise. "Let yourself feel it. Don't fight it." The words were simple, but they struck a chord deep inside me, resonating in a way that made my chest ache with something I couldn't name. Fear, curiosity, longing, all tangled together, impossible to separate. I touched the fabric again, tracing the lines of the dress, feeling the wig brushing my shoulders, the warmth of the makeup on my skin. Each sensation was foreign, intimate, grounding me in the reality of the moment. My reflection moved as I moved, and I could feel a strange dialogue forming between us. She, the person in the mirror, and I were negotiating this new existence together, tentative and trembling, but undeniably present. Tears pricked my eyes, unbidden. Am I ashamed? Am I proud? The answer was both, tangled and messy, impossible to simplify. I wanted to run, to rip everything off and reclaim the person I had been just an hour ago. But another part of me, the part one hadn't met, the part the dress and wig and makeup had coaxed out, whispered, "Stay. Just see who you are." The silence between us stretched, thick with emotion. I felt naked and shielded at the same time, fragile and powerful. The mirror reflected a person I hadn't known I could be, and yet, somehow, she felt right. My pulse slowed, just slightly, as I let myself meet her gaze fully, letting the vulnerability settle over me like a fragile, trembling cloak. I don't know who I am," I whispered. The words were fragile, but they carried truth. And for the first time, I realized that maybe, just maybe, that uncertainty was okay. I hadn't expected anyone else to see me like this. I thought the room was a private sanctuary, a place where fear and curiosity could dance unseen. But then the door creaked, and she stepped in, quiet, calm, and watching me with that same soft, knowing smile. My chest tightened immediately. Panic surged. What if she laughed? What if she judged me? I pressed my hands to the dress instinctively, trying to shield myself, but the gesture felt futile. Every line, every detail of my transformation was laid bare, and I could feel the weight of her gaze on me, gentle but intense. "You look amazing," she said softly, and the words struck me harder than I expected. My stomach twisted. Amazing? That's me. I wanted to argue, to deny it, but my voice caught in my throat, high-pitched and unfamiliar, betraying my internal chaos. Her presence was steady, not invasive, letting me breathe in my fear and fascination at the same time. I shuffled, awkwardly, unsure how to move in this new skin, this new identity that felt both alien and strangely natural. Each step made the dress sway, each tilt of my head revealed another curve I had never noticed. I caught my reflection in the mirror again. Seeing her standing behind me, quietly affirming my appearance, made my chest tighten further. I felt seen in a way I had never felt before, not just looked at, not just observed, but recognized. And it terrified me. Do I deserve this? Am I allowed to feel this? Her hand reached out gently, brushing a strand of wig behind my ear. The touch was light, tender, grounding me, and I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I had never felt so exposed, so fragile, and yet, so alive. The mix of fear and exhilaration surged through me like electricity, leaving me shaking but wanting more. I don't know if I can, I started, voice trembling. But she cut me off with a soft shake of her head. You can. You already are. Her words echoed inside me. I realized that being seen, truly seen, might be scarier than the dress, the wig, the makeup. But it was also more powerful, more real, more human than anything I had ever felt. And in that quiet moment, I knew something inside me had shifted irrevocably. I took a deep breath, gripping the hem of the dress nervously, and stepped toward the door. Each movement felt foreign, like I was learning my body all over again. The sway of the fabric around my legs, the soft brush of the wig against my shoulders, it was exhilarating, terrifying, and utterly consuming all at once. The hallway stretched before me, familiar yet suddenly strange. Every step echoed in my ears, loud and intimate, as if the world had shifted and I was walking inside a dream. My pulse raced. What will people think? Will they see me? Will they know it's me? Fear and curiosity tangled inside me, each breath shaky, each heartbeat pounding like a warning drum. I could feel her eyes on me, steady and reassuring, and I realized I wasn't entirely alone in this. She didn't speak, didn't guide, but her quiet presence anchored me, giving me the courage to keep moving, to embrace the vulnerability that wrapped around me like the dress itself. I paused in front of a full-length mirror at the end of the hallway. My reflection stopped me in my tracks. I barely recognized the person looking back. The soft lines of my face framed by the wig, the subtle curve of my waist, the delicate sway of the dress, it all made me feel fragile and exposed, yet impossibly alive. I swallowed, feeling tears prick at my eyes. Each step forward felt monumental. The act of moving in this body, wearing these clothes, being visible, it was like learning to walk for the first time. I noticed the way the fabric shifted with my motion, the gentle brush against my arms, the way my high-pitched voice sounded even in the quiet hallway. And then, for the first time, a flicker of something unexpected, pride. Not loud or bold, but a quiet, trembling acknowledgement that this, whatever this was, felt right, even in the midst of fear. My legs shook, my hands trembled, but I kept moving, one step, one heartbeat at a time, feeling the weight of the dress, the wig, and the truth of my reflection settle over me. I realized that walking, simply walking, was no longer just a motion, it was a declaration. And though the world outside the room still loomed with uncertainty, I felt a flicker of courage ignite within me, fragile but undeniable. I hadn't expected anyone else to notice. I thought the hallway was just a path, neutral, a space where I could test this new version of myself in private. But then I ran into him, my brother, my roommate, someone who knew me, the old me, standing there, frozen, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. The panic hit me first. Oh no. He's seen me. He knows. He's going to laugh, mock me, hate me. My hands flew to the dress instinctively, clutching it like a shield, my pulse hammering like a frantic drum. The wig slipped slightly from my shoulder, and I shoved it back nervously. You look different, he stammered, voice cracking. Not mockery, not teasing, just raw, startled honesty. My stomach twisted. Different? That's not even. I couldn't find words, couldn't explain the storm inside me. I felt a wave of vulnerability crash over me. Every second stretched painfully, my reflection in the hallway mirror behind him catching my anxious posture, my trembling fingers, my racing heart. I was exposed, fragile, yet undeniably present in a way I had never been before. And then came something unexpected, his smile. Hesitant, small, uncertain, but it was there. I like it, he added softly. The words hung in the air, surreal, almost too good to be true. My knees nearly buckled. I wanted to cry, to laugh, to scream all at once. Fear and relief collided violently inside me. I stared at him, searching for signs of mockery, but found none. Just quiet acceptance, gentle recognition. My breath hitched, realizing how much I had dreaded judgment, how much I had assumed fear and rejection were inevitable. Yet here he was, witnessing me fully, and somehow, it felt safe. Her voice floated from behind, soft but firm. "See? You can do this." And suddenly I realized the dress, the wig, the makeup, they hadn't just changed my appearance. They had unlocked courage I didn't know I had, a fragile, trembling bravery that had been buried beneath fear and self-doubt. For the first time, I felt it, the strange, intoxicating thrill of being seen, truly seen, and accepted. My reflection in the mirror caught my gaze, and I realized she, the new me, wasn't just standing there in silk and lace. She was alive. And I was too. Later that evening, I found myself alone again, standing in front of the mirror, the dress still clinging softly to my frame. The adrenaline of being seen had faded, leaving only a raw, pulsing tension inside me. I touched the fabric absent-mindedly, tracing the seams, the lace, the soft curves, and a storm of conflicting emotions crashed through me. Shame rose first, sharp and biting. Who am I? What am I doing? This isn't me. People would laugh. People would judge. You can't. My hands trembled as I covered my face, wanting to hide from even my own reflection. But then, beneath the shame, a quiet voice whispered, "And yet, this feels real. Feels right. Doesn't it?" I peeked through my fingers at the mirror. The person staring back at me wasn't just a reflection. She was someone I had always been hiding, tucked beneath layers of habit, expectation, and fear. Her eyes met mine, wide and vulnerable, yet something inside them shimmered strength, even if fragile. Tears welled, blurring the reflection, and I realized I was crying for all the years I had ignored this part of myself. The fear, the shame, the uncertainty, they had been my shields. And now, exposed in silk and lace, wig resting softly, makeup tracing my features delicately, I finally felt the weight lift, just slightly. A shaky breath escaped. Maybe I'm allowed to feel this," I whispered. The words sounded foreign in my own ears, yet they carried a strange liberation. Every fiber of the dress pressed against me, grounding me, a tactile reminder that this version of me wasn't a lie or a trick. This new self, was real. I shook my head, trying to reconcile the storm inside. Fear and curiosity, shame and pride, all twisting together in a knot I couldn't untangle. And yet, beneath it all, a fragile ember of confidence glimmered. I touched my reflection, fingertips brushing the glass, as if trying to connect with the girl who had been waiting inside me all along. For the first time, I didn't look away. I didn't flinch. I faced her fully, letting the vulnerability and fear coexist with the fragile, trembling courage. And in that quiet, suspended moment, I realized something profound. Being afraid didn't make me weak. It made me human. And being human didn't mean hiding. I sank onto the edge of my bed, the dress pooling softly around my legs, the wig falling like a curtain over my shoulders. For the first time, I let myself breathe fully, feeling the weight of the day, the transformation, the fear, and the thrill settle together. My reflection in the nearby mirror caught my eye again, and I stared not with panic, but with curiosity. She was me. Yet she wasn't. The lines of my face softened, the sway of my body felt foreign, and the way the light caught the silk fabric made her seem almost fragile, delicate. And yet, there was a strength there, quiet but undeniable, that made my chest ache in the most unexpected way. I ran my fingers over the lace trim, feeling the cool fabric, the gentle pressure, the strange intimacy of wearing something so foreign yet so right. I thought about all the moments before today, the doubts, the panic, the fear of being seen, and I realized something. Every step, every trembling breath, had led me here. To this moment. To her. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, not from fear, not from shame, but from the quiet beauty of acceptance. I whispered to my reflection, maybe this isn't wrong. Maybe it's just me. The words were fragile, shaky, but they carried truth, resonating in my chest like a soft, persistent heartbeat. I laughed softly, a sound mingled with disbelief and relief, running a hand through the wig, adjusting it gently. The way the fabric fell over my shoulders, the subtle curve of the dress, the reflection staring back, suddenly, it all felt natural. Not easy, not fully comfortable yet, but undeniably real. Her eyes in the mirror seemed to soften, as if recognizing my fragile acknowledgement. For the first time, I felt a flicker of peace, a quiet pride that coexisted with the lingering fear. It wasn't about impressing anyone, or being perfect, or even fully understanding what had happened. It was about seeing her, seeing myself, and letting that person exist without shame. I breathed in deeply, closing my eyes for a moment, feeling the silk against my skin, the wig's weight, the soft warmth of makeup on my cheeks. And in the silence of the room, I understood, the transformation wasn't just outward. It was inward, fragile, tentative, and utterly beautiful. I sat in the quiet of my room, the dress still wrapped around me, and for the first time allowed my thoughts to wander freely, unguarded. The wig felt heavier now, but comforting, like a familiar presence despite being new. My reflection caught my gaze again, and something strange happened. I began to notice details I hadn't before. The way my shoulders sloped softly, the delicate curve of my neck, the subtle warmth of blush on my cheeks, all these details weren't just fabric and makeup. They were pieces of me, pieces I had ignored or pushed away for years. And in that quiet observation, a wave of realization washed over me. Maybe I had always wanted this, without ever admitting it, without ever having the courage to face it. Tears slipped down my cheeks silently, not from fear, not from shame, but from the weight of acknowledgement. I whispered to the reflection, "You've been here all along, waiting for me." The words trembled on my lips, fragile, yet impossibly true. I traced the outline of the dress with my fingertips, feeling the silky fabric beneath my fingers, the texture grounding me. Every inch of me felt alive, more aware than I had ever been. And then I noticed something in the mirror, a softness in my eyes, a quiet strength, a glimmer of someone who had been buried under fear, doubt, and self-consciousness. It hit me then. This wasn't about pretending or playing a role. It wasn't a dare, a joke, or a fantasy. It was discovery. It was recognition. It was me, finally allowing myself to see and accept what had been hidden for so long. I let out a shaky laugh, wiping my tears, feeling a warmth spread through my chest. The fear hadn't vanished, it never would completely, but it had softened, replaced by curiosity, tenderness, and a fragile courage. I realized that the person in the mirror wasn't just a reflection. She was a guide, a whisper, a fragment of my truest self finally brought to life. For the first time, I felt a strange equilibrium. Fear and beauty coexisting, vulnerability and courage intertwined. And in that quiet moment, I understood something profound. The transformation wasn't just about clothes, wigs, or makeup. It was about uncovering the pieces of myself I had been too afraid to meet and letting them breathe. Stepping out of my room felt like leaving a protective cocoon. The hallway, once familiar, now seemed charged with eyes I couldn't see, whispers I imagined, judgments I feared. Every step in the dress, every sway of the fabric, every brush of the wig against my shoulders made my heartbeat drum a frantic rhythm. I paused at the door, taking a deep breath. The fear clawed at me, whispering that I shouldn't, that I wasn't ready. But another voice, a quieter, braver one, urged me forward. You can. You are allowed to exist like this. I pushed open the door, stepping into the living room where my sister was sitting, reading, seemingly oblivious. Her gaze found me instantly. For a heartbeat, nothing happened, then a slow, surprised smile spread across her face. Wow, she breathed, eyes wide. Not mockery, not laughter, just astonishment and something softer, like admiration. I froze, unsure how to respond. My voice cracked, high and unfamiliar, betraying my nerves. My fingers twitched, adjusting the dress instinctively. Every motion felt magnified, exposed, a declaration I hadn't yet learned to control. She stood and stepped closer, her expression gentle. You look beautiful, she said simply. The word hit me harder than I expected. My chest constricted, tears prickling again. Beauty. Me. That word, applied to this version of myself, was dizzying in its honesty. I blinked, trying to steady my breathing. I don't know if I can, My voice faltered. Fear, anticipation, and an unspoken hope collided inside me. I wanted to run, to hide, to pretend this had never happened, but something in her eyes stopped me. Acceptance. Recognition. Quiet support. Her smile deepened. It's okay. You're okay. And you look like yourself, just different. The simplicity of it, the lack of judgment, made my knees weak. For the first time, I realized that being seen in this way didn't have to mean shame. It could mean acknowledgement. It could mean truth. And in that fragile, electric moment, standing in silk and lace, wig brushing softly over my shoulders, I understood something vital. The world might be scary, but facing it, fully, as this version of myself, could also feel liberating, real, and undeniably alive. She reached out, gently brushing a stray strand of wig from my face, and I froze, heart hammering in my chest. The touch was light, almost casual, but it carried weight I hadn't expected. Warmth, recognition, and something unspoken all packed into that fleeting moment. You're amazing, she said softly, not teasing, not judging, just honest. My chest tightened. Amazing. Me. Saying it aloud felt foreign, dangerous, yet intoxicating. The words lingered in the air, wrapping around me like a fragile promise. I blinked, fighting back tears, trying to find my voice. I don't know if my voice cracked, high and unfamiliar. She didn't interrupt. She just waited, steady, patient, letting me navigate the storm inside. And in her silence, I found space to breathe. To feel. To accept. Every step I had taken in this dress, every tremor, every heartbeat, every brush of fabric and wig, it had led to this. Being seen, truly seen, and met with care. Her eyes held mine, unwavering. You don't have to pretend, she whispered. You can just be you. This version, all of it, it's still you. And it's beautiful. My throat tightened. I hadn't realized how much I had been craving that validation, that simple acknowledgement that this transformation wasn't a mistake, wasn't something to hide. I laughed softly, a mixture of disbelief and relief, feeling the tension in my shoulders ease ever so slightly. The dress swayed with my movement, the wig brushed against my cheeks, and my reflection in the mirror caught my gaze. She, the new me, was smiling back, hesitant, trembling, but real. Tears spilled over finally, unrestrained. I felt exposed, fragile, and yet, utterly alive. Her words, her presence, made me realize that the transformation wasn't about impressing anyone. It wasn't about fear, shame, or performance. It was about discovery, acceptance, and connection. In that quiet, electric moment, I understood, this wasn't just a dress, a wig, or makeup. It was a bridge between fear and courage, shame and pride, hidden self and the world. And for the first time, I felt that I could cross it. Later, alone again, I sank onto the edge of my bed, hands folded in my lap, staring at the mirror across the room. The dress, the wig, the makeup, they had changed the way the world saw me, but now I was beginning to notice the changes inside. Something subtle, yet undeniable, had shifted in the way I breathed, in the way I held myself, in the way I imagined myself moving through the world. I traced a finger along the lace of the dress, feeling the fabric against my skin, and realized that this wasn't just about clothes. It was about layers I had hidden beneath fear, expectation, and years of silence. The transformation hadn't just covered me, it had uncovered me. My reflection stared back, and I saw her clearly now. Not just a girl in a dress, not just a costume or a role, but someone tender, aware, and alive. The soft curve of the shoulders, the tilt of the head, the quiet strength in her eyes, it all felt like pieces of myself I hadn't allowed to exist before. Tears pricked my eyes, but they were not of shame. They were release, relief, awe. I whispered to the mirror, maybe I'm allowed to be this. The words were small, fragile, but they resonated deep inside, threading through the fear, the doubt, and the uncertainty that had weighed me down for so long. I realized that the transformation wasn't just an outward appearance, it was a map to who I had been all along, guiding me gently, insistently, toward recognition, acceptance, and self-love. The dress, the wig, the makeup, they were tools, yes, but the real change was inside me, in my awareness, my courage, and the quiet acknowledgement that this version of me was valid, whole, and deserving of space in the world. I closed my eyes, letting the silk brush against my skin, letting the weight of the wig settle over my shoulders, letting the warmth of makeup remind me that I existed fully in this body, this form. And in that stillness, I understood something profound. The transformation hadn't just altered my reflection. It had begun to reshape my soul. I stood before the mirror, breath trembling, heart hammering, hands pressed lightly against the silk of the dress. Every step of this journey, the fear, the trembling, the laughter, the tears, culminated in this singular moment. I saw her fully now, every curve, every softened line, every subtle detail that made her unmistakably real. And with that vision came a tidal wave of emotion, raw and unfiltered. Fear surged first, sharp and jagged. Who am I? What if this is wrong? What if people don't accept me? My chest constricted, and for a moment, I thought I would collapse under the weight of uncertainty. Then came exhilaration, soft but insistent, threading through the fear like sunlight piercing storm clouds. I am here. I exist. This is me. The realization hit with a force I hadn't expected, leaving me trembling, shaking, and somehow alive in a way I had never known. I lifted my chin, tracing the outline of my reflection with my eyes, and for the first time, I felt the courage to meet her gaze fully. No flinching, no hiding. Just recognition. Just truth. Tears slid down my cheeks, and I laughed softly, a breathless, trembling sound. This is me, I whispered, voice cracking but confident in its fragility. All of it. Every part. And I accept it. The room felt charged with quiet electricity, the kind that hums in your bones when something fundamental has shifted. My hands smoothed the fabric, my fingers brushed the wig, and I felt a strange weight lift, replaced by a fluttering, uncontainable lightness. I wasn't just seeing her anymore, I was becoming her, embracing the identity I had hidden, denied, and feared. In that moment, I understood. The transformation wasn't about changing who I was. It was about discovering who I had always been. Fear and exhilaration danced together, inseparable, as I stood fully, trembling yet whole, in the reflection of a self I had finally allowed to breathe. And for the first time, the world felt expansive, daring, and full of possibility because I was no longer hiding. I was alive. I was her. I was me. I sat quietly, the dress soft against my skin, the wig settling perfectly over my shoulders, and stared at the reflection that had become so familiar, yet still felt miraculous. A gentle smile curved my lips, fragile, tender, but real. Maybe I didn't change at all. Maybe I just found the pieces of myself I had buried, the parts one had been too afraid to love. Fear and doubt still lingered, yes, but alongside them bloomed courage, tenderness, and a quiet pride I hadn't known existed. I whispered softly, almost to myself, this is me. All of me. And that's enough. The room was silent, yet full. Full of acceptance, discovery, and the realization that true transformation begins inside. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more journeys of self-discovery and heartfelt stories.